for, there we go, recording. So hi everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today on this lovely Sunday afternoon. A little bit different for us here at the Vivid branch, where we normally hold our weekend classes on a Saturday at 4 o'clock. So I think that threw a few of you that we said, oh, we're hoping it on a Sunday. But yeah, look, thank you so much for joining us, and we're excited to bring you this particular class. I've got a couple of presenters that will be joining us today from my team. I've got the lovely Anita, who's going to talk to you a little bit about the pizza dough and then turning it into things like pizza pockets and things like that, and scrolls, all of those type of things. I've got Sharon joining us, and she's going to take a flip a little bit on that traditional pizza dough and how we can add some color and some different flavor to it to take it to a whole new level. I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about the Ovana, that if some of you are actually been hearing about this new Thermomix appliance that's no longer in your kitchen, it's now outside, but with the use of your Thermomix, you can make great pizza dough and then use this outdoor wonderful pizza oven called Ovana, available on our mix shop. So I'm going to feature a little bit of that and tell you about all the accessories that comes with that, so you can get a good look at it and a good feel if that's something that's been on your radar. We're also going to be talking a little bit about gluten-free. Now, that seems to be something that a lot of people ask us about. What is the right gluten-free dough that I can use? Is it different that I have to use it from in the inside of my pizza oven to the outside, or, you know, like, sorry, an inside oven versus an outside pizza oven? People have tried various different techniques to get that real feel of a real crust. And I've got today, I'm very lucky to have my boss, the wonderful Teresa Van Gessel, who has been making this wonderful gluten-free base for her family. And so she's going to share some tips around that and the different uses of flours and things like that to get that perfect gluten-free base. Because we know that it is something that those of you with intolerances and allergies really find it hard. It's a bit like getting that great recipe of that fabulous gluten-free bread. Everybody wants the softer one, not the brick. So hopefully we can help you out with that. So we do have a special guest. I'm not sure if he's popped in yet or not. Has anybody seen Mario on the screen yet, Teresa? Has he popped in? No. Let's have a look if I've got him in my chat. He's coming in under Mario Tropiano. So have we got a Mario Tropiano in our feed, Teresa? Okay. Let's have a quick look.
Not yet, but I'm keeping an eye out for him.
Okay. Okay, I'll just let him join us. Okay, all right. All right, so without further ado, I'm just going to kick us off, and we were going to start with Mario, but he hasn't jumped in yet. So I'm going to kick us off with our first presenter, which is going to be Anita. Now, Anita's going to talk a little bit about the pizza pockets, as I said to you. But when we're talking about our basic pizza dough, don't forget it can be used in many things. And you may have seen us use it in many things before, like scrolls and things like that. So over to Anita to explain how she comes up with a fabulous solution and something you can even pop in a lunchbox or something too. Okay, over to you, Anita.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you. Yeah, you threw me in there a little bit earlier than expected, but that's all good. I think I am ready. So yeah, I use the basic pizza dough. In fact, I think it's slightly different. So I'll give a variation to that to Linda that she can share with you all. But the basic pizza dough is really versatile. You can, make your traditional pizzas, whether that is round or rectangular, or use it as pizza scrolls, or in this instance, as pizza pockets. So I find it so handy to have these things in my freezer, where I basically take it out in the morning and pop it in the lunch boxes. So it's just an easy, healthy snack to have, and the kids love it, even if it's just defrosted in the lunchbox. So it's a real winner. Now, in terms of toppings, of course, I was going to talk to you a little bit about when you're proving your dough. So in terms of getting the best end result, the longer you rest it and the longer you rise it, the better and fluffier it becomes. But we don't always have 1 to 2 or even more hours to let it rest. So in my instance, I would basically make it on a Friday night, make the dough, let it rest. Whilst it's resting, I'm getting all my toppings ready. So that could be even as little as half an hour, and that is okay. But if you leave it longer, you will get a better end result. So what I do most of the time is I just wrap it in the baking mat, a thermomat, quite tight, and let it rest in on top of my induction cooking actually. Other times I will spray some olive oil inside a thermoserver, and just basically when you made your dough, make it nice and tight as a round ball, and then pop it in and then cover it either with a lid or some cling wrap. I then put it in the sink with a little bit of warm water so it goes even quicker in terms of proving. So this is not the authentic Italian way, I am sure, but for us mums who are at home and in a rush, it's an awesome way to do it. So I'm going to bring you down here just so you can see what it is that I am doing. You don't need to look at me, but you can look at what's happening. So I've got quite a few different toppings. Reason why is I have one who's vegetarian and one who's not. This is the second time that the dough is proving, right? So the longer you can leave this second dough to, the better. The first proving, make sure that the dough is just in one big ball, you get a better end result. Now, and I've just divided this into basically a slice that you think your child or you will eat, right? So I just, when I make it into a ball, a bit of a secret to it is to round it so it is in a nice round ball, and just do that a few times so you have a ball like this, okay? And then pop it down and let it rest with something on top. Once you're ready, you just push it out with your hand. You can use a rolling pin, but I find it just pushes out too much of the air, and therefore when you use your hand, much more of a nice fluffy end result, I find. So once you put your topping on, that could be, this is actually a pasta sauce that I use, with also packed with a few extra veggies. So it's a nice healthy end result. This one is the mozzarella filling. I call it a mozzarella filling from the Sun Pizza. So again, I will I share that. This could have ham in it. I have today used cauliflower, or you can use artichoke as your filling. So then with this one, you don't actually need a sauce. That can be the only filling in itself, or you can add some mushrooms, some spinach, just to make it even nicer. So lots of different fillings here. Chicken, roast chicken actually, that I've just shredded. Once you have filled it, try not to go all the way to the end so that you have room to push it down like this.
I'm going to wait for the cake to cool off a bit.
I don't know what that comment was about, but that's okay. Once it's done, you push it down with a fork so you get it close so that all that cheese filling does not seep out. How does that all sound? I've also made a pesto. Pesto makes a nice base inside a pizza too. And of course, I'm not going to talk about all the different toppings you can have. It all depends on your taste. But top it with what you like. And as I said, this takes probably 12 to 15 minutes to cook in the oven. Once they cool down, I'll pop them straight in the freezer. Easy for you to pop in those lunch boxes, or unless they're gone beforehand, because they are so delicious when they are hot out of the oven. How's that, Linda? Do we want me to do anything else or show you anything else? Is this all right?
I'm sure they are most impressed with how easy you make that look. It is amazing, and you do it so seamlessly. I think the one thing that we're probably keen to see is when they come out of the oven, how steaming hot and how yummy they're going to look, and how I wish we all could be around at your place right now.
Oh, pop around. Let's have pizza pockets for dinner tonight. How easy is it? Kids are happy because they will get some pizza pockets for dinner tonight. So that's easy.
Okay.
Thank you.
No worries. Thank you. And so, as Anita explained, sometimes we can think outside. It's really important to remember to think outside this, the box there, and ensure that at the end of the day that you're thinking about all different ingredients when it comes to you know, mixing it with a plain base. So we're going to show you a little bit and talk a little bit more about that as well. So I want to now introduce you to the wonderful Mario, who I've seen has jumped on screen. Mario, if you can find a way in which to take yourself off mute and on screen with video and voice, I'd like to ask you some questions on behalf of the wonderful audience that we have here today.
Hello, Linda. How are you?
Yay! Thanks for joining us. I know this is very last minute, so I'm pretty excited to have you on board and showcase the Thermomix, Ovana, and some of your tips around pizza making. So let me introduce you properly, Mario. Mario has been supporting many of our Thermomix owners launching into pizza oven usage, but especially our Ovana. And he's got this great group, the community group that he has set up. And I'm going to leave it over to Mario to talk to you a little bit about that community group, and then maybe share with the audience a little bit about how to get that perfect stretchy dough that we all want. So over to you, Mario.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. As you mentioned, we've got a little Facebook community specifically for pizza and for the Ovana oven. We basically go through tips and tricks on what people's experiences on trial and error, so that way people can learn from other people's mistakes. That way everybody is getting the best out of their oven they possibly can. In particular, we like to try and keep it as grassroots as possible, keep everything as positive as possible, because it's a learning experience and journey for everyone to go through together. Everybody thinks it's making pizzas is simple, but there is a lot to it, and it looks easy when you see the professionals do it, but to get to that point, obviously it's years and years of practice. But the main goal is essentially to show everybody a couple of techniques that, as long as they can master, or at least get familiar and comfortable with those techniques, it will make a much easier process with making pizza, stretching dough, making the dough, topping, cooking, everything else. So essentially just trying to make everybody's lives easier, and hopefully more and more people join and be a part of it, because as it grows and as more and more people get involved, then obviously more tips, more experiences, and different recipes, toppings, ideas, and it's always good to have a vast variety and diversity and everyone's opinions. So as you mentioned before about stretching the dough, there's obviously so many methods that you can do. One that I prefer and what I've been trying to perfect over the last few years is the traditional nap slap, is what they refer to it as, which is like a stretch and fold and slap technique that you see a lot of the professionals do. But before you even start with that, there's probably the most important thing is actually getting your dough balls out of the container, maintaining a sort of round shape, because if they come out of the box in a triangle and you don't correct that, your pizza is going to basically be a triangle by the end of it. So hopefully this dough is ready, because this was made this morning in preparation to try and have something ready for this afternoon. So we'll see how we go. This, as I mentioned, was made this morning. It was at the moment it's been sitting around 4 hours for a fermentation time in the dough balls. It had 2 hours proving as a bulk fermentation before it was divided. So there's at least 6 hours there, which is good to get all that flavor and air and everything that you would want in your dough. So see if we can bring this over a little bit, and let's have a look and see if this is all ready. So I've got my proving box, and then next to it I've got a bucket of semolina. You can use 00 flour. Semolina is a different version of semolina, which is much finer. And if you find that what you've got is too coarse, you can blend it with flour to make it even finer. Because the whole idea is to be able to lubricate, or have a barrier between the dough and the surface, so it doesn't stick. Because as soon as it sticks, that's when you've got issues with launching into the oven and on the surface and everything else. So we'll have a look in here, see how we're going. So as you can see, all of the balls are basically stuck together. So which is actually what we want, because it means that the dough is expanding and it is proving. Now, to get the ball out of this box as it is, what I do is I just sprinkle some of that semolina in the joins with the ball that I'm wanting, all around the sides. Sure you can see that. And then with the spatula, I then break that that join, so that way it's separate from the other ones. This is a little bit too big, the spatula, for this little space, but you get the idea. Break it from the sides. Essentially, what you want to do is try and go in under one shot. And again, just trying to get it away from the other ones.
Mario, you're handling it like it's a little baby. I don't think I've ever handled my pizza dough so delicately.
Well, that's the other trick and tip, is that you got to treat it like a baby. Everything is delicate. You can't be too rough. So what I'm doing now is I'm just dusting this bowl and just flipping over again, being very delicate, because as you can see, it's very, very soft. It's already stretching in my hands. I'm not even doing anything yet. So once that is like that, we put it onto the board, which I'll move that around so you can see. And we just want to get that more round. And as you can see, it's already flattened out. It's so relaxed. It's basically ready to cook. So it's not springing back at all. There's so much air in there as well. And that comes from that long fermentation. So we want to just spread it out. And because this is almost there, it's a gentle, with one hand, push down, the other hand is pulling, and we flip one, like, over the top of our arm and back down again. And when you do it faster and faster, it sort of becomes more uniform instead of being so dramatic, as I'm doing it at the moment. But yeah, stretch, flip, slap, and then again, stretch, flip, slap. And as you can see, it's already, opened up. So there's not too much more. You go too much, and then you can have issues with it tearing and having thin spots in there. And having that thin spot is no good, because if you put sauce, any extra moisture on top of it, it's going to seep through that thin spot and then potentially break open in the oven, or break when you're putting it on the peel. So I'm pretty happy with that, because when we put it on the peel, we can open it up more. So just to show you, again, there's lots of methods on how to get the dough onto the peel. I always sprinkle, again, a little bit of semolina on there, and you can pinch the edge of the crust without touching the crust, because once that's formed, you don't want to deflate that by crushing it. So always working around that, and just underneath it, a gentle slide, and that will go on, and then that's when we can spread it out. Now, I would normally obviously top all this and then do this at the end. I wouldn't top it on the peel. Some people, like, you can if you're using a different type of peel. So for example, to make it easier, if you've got, like, for example, a serving board that's got a chamfered edge or a beveled edge, you can do the same thing. Just slide it on top. It's being a little bit thicker. It's obviously going to be not as easy as the other one. But what you can do with this one, as long as you work quick, you can top it on here, and then you can bring it around, and then you can put it straight in the oven on this serving board, opposed to having to try and do it with the normal perforated peel with toppings on there, and risk, if you're not confident with doing it, risk making a hole or whatever it may be. So at least this way you've got that extra barrier protection, because being, this is made of bamboo, but any wood surface is much less chance of that dough sticking to the surface, opposed to a metallic surface. It's going to sweat more, and it's going to have that problem. Again, the other thing to probably show you as well is, there's no toppings in it at the moment, but I use a toppings container. Everything is basically ready to go. So that way, when I'm cooking, when I'm preparing, I'm doing everything in one shot. I'm not looking for anything. I'm not chopping up toppings as I go. Everything is in my reach, and I always put everything in the same spot every time when I'm making pizzas. That way, I'm not having to think about it, because the longer it sits on the board, on anything, it just creates more moisture and more stickiness. So that's pretty much the basics. So unless there's any in particular questions that anybody would like to know.
Mario, I thought what we'll do is we'll run through the rest of the class, and if we've got time and you're willing to stay on until the end, I'd like to open it up to some questions, because I'm sure we've got some people on today that have got some key questions. A lot of people are actually popping into the chat. Oh, I love Mario's group and it's so helpful, and all things like that. There is fantastic things there. One or two people have asked the recipe, because it looks so soft and so fluffy. and very different to, I guess, maybe the one that we're using. So is there a different recipe that you're using? I know I've seen one on your community page. Is that the one that you're using today?
Well, this one here is not that particular recipe,
Okay.
because that one there is a minimum 24 hours for that
Okay.
particular dough. I do have well, I don't really necessarily work with recipes. It's more so how long do I want to ferment it for, in terms of, I got someone coming over on Saturday and I've got time to start it on, say, Thursday to do a 48-hour dough, or on Friday, for a 24-hour dough. It's more so the principles and quantities. For example, one that's on the community is a 24-hour dough, which my wife has converted for me for the recipe community for Thermomix, to use that in the TM6. I used to use just a KitchenAid, and depending on the quantity, I would obviously do that a bit differently. But that is basically the recipe there that's been converted for the Thermomix. Well, I'm going to be doing a video showing a conventional method for people that haven't got Thermomixes. So that's something that's on the recipe community at the moment. I believe it's called Mario's Pizza Dough, I think. But then there's another one that we'll be doing, which is a gluten-free one, which a lot of people have commented and liked that particular version that we've done. Today this is a normal direct dough method, which doesn't require a pre-ferment. So again, I don't want to probably go into too much detail, because I know you haven't got a lot of time, but I could stand here talking all day about it.
Yeah, well, I guess the best thing is that we can direct everyone back to the community page, and you've been really great with responding to people's questions in that community page. So thank you so much, because there's so many of us that have been struggling a little bit when we first got our pizza ovens. But yeah, look, thank you so much for being there for everybody in that fabulous community page, which for those of you that are on the class today, we'll make sure we send that link out. I think Leah's probably popped it in the chat anyway. I know a lot of people are waiting for your gluten-free one, but we've actually got the wonderful Teresa making a version of gluten-free today as well. So we've just sort of like, we've got our own ways. They may not be Mario's ways, but, one day we could probably make it Mario's ways if we all had 24 hours to sit there and prove our dough. So thank you, Mario. I'm going to come back to you at the end. What I'm going to do now is go across to the lovely Sharon, and Sharon's going to talk about basic pizza dough, but also changing that up a little bit. And I'm not sure if you guys have heard, but we have on offer at the moment an amazing black Thermomix. It's the black limited edition Thermomix. So we thought we'd actually give you a little taste of something black in our cooking class today. And so Sharon's going to talk to you about making a black dough. Over to you, Sharon.
Hi everyone, can you hear me? Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi everyone. So I've just started the pizza dough. This is a basic standard pizza dough that we have in your Cook I Do recipes. And I've just been letting the, the yeast ferment for a while. And I will continue making it. So the only difference between the normal one, normal pizza, and this one that I'm making is that I use activated black charcoal to get that black color, or the neural color, as you would say, into it. So I've already done that part. So I'm going to put that all in. I'm going to add the oil, and I'm going to add one teaspoon of soy sauce. Now you might ask me why to put that soy sauce in. It's to aid with the fermentation of the dough yeast. So if you're going to do it and let it sit 24 hours, that will help with it and also boost that umami flavors up. And all I do is got the salt in, and I would add a little bit more salt to it too, and that's all you need to do. Now, with the magic of television, I have my dough ready. Sitting aside.
Sharon, can you just stop? Yeah, the good idea.
Yeah, so that's been sitting there since I made it this morning. But if you do it overnight, it would be as nice as the other one. So I like to do my pizza on the pan to put it into the oven. And you should put semolina below. And all you do is just stretch the dough out.
I can't get over how black that is. That is amazing. That looks like licorice.
It does. So I've used black activated charcoal, but if you are a seafood lover, I would recommend that you use the cuttlefish ink that you can get in some stores. So all you do is just let the weight pull, and I think you're supposed to do it with your hands like this underneath to stretch it, and outward stretch. And once it's stretched, you can put your filling, and all I'm doing is a simple filling of cheese. This is just tasty cheese, and put some oil below. I don't use tomato base as I have the intolerance to tomatoes. So I love a garlic or aioli sauce at the bottom. And this is just mozzarella. Just peeling my mozzarella. And my family loves cheese, so I'm gonna have more cheese on top. And just corn on top. And this is basically a take of a Japanese style variation. And I'm just doing corn, cheese, and some edamame on top. So give it some nice color. So black, green, and that golden thing. And that's all I do to set it into the oven. And I will top it later on with some garnishing. And that's it.
Excellent, thanks. I'd love to see that when it comes out of the oven. I'm really curious about how that color is going to really pop and what the texture is of that dough. So thanks a lot there, Sharon. It's a really nice to see something different. Okay, so I think we're going to go over to Teresa now, and Teresa's going to talk about the gluten-free dough that we talked about at the start. And as I say, even Mario's tapped on the fact that, you know, gluten-free is something that we're all after these days, and we can't wait for his. But let's go over to Teresa's, because this one's a family favourite.
It is. Thank you, Linda. So I have 2 children who are celiac, and that's the reason I bought my first Thermomix 11 years ago, because I wanted to be able to make them food that they could eat without them getting sick. So that's what started me on my Thermomix journey. It then bizarrely led to a whole new career, but that's a different story. So the recipe I'm going to make you today is one that my kids have given the really big thumbs up to, and I've tried a lot of Thermomix recipes and pizza bases over time. Of course, I got caught unaware, so I'm just going to wait for my Thermomix to turn on. The recipe I'm using is actually the one out of the Ovana cookbook that comes with the oven. It's on Cookie Dough as the Hawaiian pizza with a gluten-free base, but you can also find it in the, if you just do a search for gluten-free pizza base, it's gluten-free pizza 2 ways is another one of the Cookie Dough recipes that's there. So the first step is to actually mill your rice, and it asks for white rice. Now, I've actually done that so that you don't have to listen to nothing for a minute, because we all know that Zoom blocks out loud noises. So the recipe calls for white rice, but in fact, what I've been using is sushi rice, because sushi rice is, of course, far more glutinous than normal rice. If you don't have sushi rice, you can actually substitute glutinous rice flour. And if you don't know where to get that, it's always worth checking out the Asian section of the supermarket, because I know in Woolies down the bottom, they have bags of glutinous rice flour for $1, which is a lot cheaper than buying it in the health food section. And yes, I do love the comments about my Dutch background. That would be my parents' background. So Dutch girl making Italian pizzas, gluten-free, bit of combo. So I've done the rice flour. I've milled that for a minute, which of course is still cheaper than buying it, even with the Woolies one. I'm going to add water, yeast, sugar, and then let it heat for a little bit. And I will do that in a moment. But the next thing I was going to talk to you about in a bit more detail is, in fact, using gluten-free flour. So there's been a lot of different questions and inquiries about it, particularly on the Ovana Facebook group. about what sort of flour, and people talk about the Caputo flour being really good. I know that Manildra have brought out a gluten-free flour, which is meant to be excellent. I actually have to confess, I use the Aldi gluten-free flour if I, don't have any that I've made myself. But what I'm going to show you in a moment is a cheat sheet for making your own gluten-free flours based on the things that the flavors you like and the tolerances or intolerances you have, and how you can substitute things in and out of that. So if you give me 2 seconds, I'm going to chuck everything in, and then I'm going to give you some tips on how to work with gluten-free dough, because it's really wet and sticky. I just forgot to get my water, so give me 1 moment and I will grab a container for water, because, when you're doing it in your own kitchen, you always forget the important ingredients. So let me just go back. And then, so I need 250 grams of water. One of my children has stolen all of my jugs to water plants. So I'm using a Tupperware container because, we love inventing things. And if you're not keeping your yeast in the fridge, this is your hint, you should be. Keep it in the door of the fridge, and that way it doesn't get too cold, but it means that it actually lasts longer and it doesn't die, because yeast is actually, living. Not living, you know what I mean. Okay, so 2.5 teaspoons. And again, you can't really do too much. You can't have too much yeast. A teaspoon of white sugar. I have to go and find the sugar bowl because we don't use a lot of sugar anymore. And then we're just going to let that sit. She says, and that's just going to warm up for 1.5 minutes, 37 degrees speed too. So while that is happening, let me screen share, and hopefully I will be able to find what it is that I want to share. Not computer sound, no, go back, sorry. I was playing the music at the beginning and the computer has decided that it wants to share everything. Oh my goodness me. Okay, computer is not saying yes, computer is saying no. So while, here we go. That's gonna work. Let me go back now and share what we want to share. Oh, that is not it either. Honestly, I'm so clunky. What I'm going to do is talk you through it, send out with the email afterwards. So when you look at different gluten-free grains and starches, they're actually, you can substitute them by weight. And this is the beauty of the Thermomix, of course, because everything else is done by weight. You can substitute things by weight. So the document that I'm trying to show you that is refusing to cooperate is a cheat sheet that I've put together that actually takes you through what the different blends can be. So it's things like your grains are almond, amaranth, brown rice, buckwheat, cornmeal or polenta, millet, quinoa, sorghum, teff, chickpea, coconut, chia. And then your starches are your arrowroot, your corn flour, your potato starch, your tapioca, your white rice, your glutinous rice. And I wanted to particularly draw attention to that because I know a few people are saying, oh, I'm going to make the pizza dough, I'm going to put brown rice in instead of white rice. If you do, you need to be aware that you're actually adding a grain instead of a starch, and it's going to change the consistency of your flour. All right, my yeast has now started to activate, and it's got the sugar, of course, is in there to feed the yeast. So now we're going to add 250 grams of plain white flour. And as I said, this is my the Aldi blend, because I haven't made my own blend for a couple of weeks because we've been making a lot of pizza. I ran out. Okay, so 250 grams. Now, this is my other substitution. The recipe calls for xanthan gum. Now, I'm not a fan of xanthan gum. It's something that's actually made through growing mold on corn syrup, and a lot of people eat it with no dramas, but my kids have got dodgy stomachs, so I try to substitute other things. And the sheet that I'm going to send out will have different xanthan gum substitutions for you. So what I'm actually going to use today is psyllium husk. And so you substitute 2 psyllium husk for 1 xanthan gum. Recipe calls for 1.5 teaspoons. So I'm going to pop in 3 teaspoons of psyllium husk. And again, you can't have too much. Psyllium husk is one of those things that swells up when moisture hits it and becomes sort of gelatinous. And that will actually that will help to create the stickiness of your dough. So I've just put in a teaspoon of sea salt, my ground rice, which is not brown rice, and I'm going to, that is going to need, that's what I'm looking for. Sorry, I'm having a bad day. I just want to show you though, I use these bowls in the kitchen. I use them when we're setting up to make pizzas. You can get them in our mix shop. They're beautiful bamboo bowls, so they're eco-friendly, but they're the perfect size for holding ingredients. Now, while that's happening, the reason I'm still kneading is because I actually want to show you how to get it out of the bowl at the end. But I have one that I prepared earlier, and I'm going to show you a couple of tricks for playing with the dough and making it so that you can actually launch it easily into your pizza oven. So I'll grab that from the fridge. So what I've done with this is I made it earlier today. I let it prove with the heat for an hour, and then I popped it into the fridge. So it's been in the fridge for a few hours. And the advantage of it being in the fridge is that it's much easier to work with, and it's not so sticky and wet, because as you'll see when that one finishes kneading, very sticky and wet. So I'm not going to use all of it, because the other trick with making gluten-free pizzas for the pizza oven is you don't want it too big, because the dough is really fragile. And if you make it too big, it'll tear as you're getting it onto the peel or as you're getting it into the oven. So I'm just going to I'm using my scraper, also available from our mix shop. And I'm just going to take effectively a piece that size. But you can see all those beautiful air bubbles. It's risen. And the reason it's got oil is because the container was oiled so that it didn't stick and tear when we pulled it out. Now, because it is so sticky, it's actually going to be really hard to work with if I don't do something about my hands. So before I put it on the mat, and I'm going to show you the mat, first of all, when we put it onto the Thermomix, I like to cover it in polenta. So polenta is the gluten-free version of the semolina that Mario was talking about. And when I talk about polenta, I'm talking about a lot of polenta, because you really want it to provide a base so that your dough isn't sticking at all. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pop olive oil on my hands and rub them together, because otherwise the dough will stick to my hands, and just having flour or polenta on my hands isn't enough to stop it sticking. So now that I've done that and I've got this beautiful little lump of gluten-free dough, unfortunately, it's not the same as our gluten dough. You can't make it into the same sort of smooth balls. It doesn't have the same qualities, but it is always good to start with a ball. Okay, so then with my oiled hands, what I do is I start stretching it out by pressing it down, and I constantly check to make sure it's moving on the semolina, because as soon as it stops moving, you're going to have trouble on your peel and you're going to have trouble launching it. So now you can see it's still moving. You can use a pre-oiled rolling pin, and you'll see that stretches out. It doesn't matter if you end up with polenta in the dough, but by just pushing it gently and checking constantly that you can move it, you stretch it until it's ready to go. Now, for toppings, I like to use the pizza sauce from Cookie Dough. I've got a jar of that in the fridge. I'll put some sauce on it. Depending on who I'm making it for, which of my children, I'll put some toppings on it. And then I just want to show you, because we've got the polenta under it, actually putting it onto the peel is not too difficult. It's different from the other dough. You can't just pick up the edge, because if you do, it will tear. And we do have a little hole in the middle there, but that's all right, because I'm not actually putting this one in the oven straight away. But that way you can see it'll move on the peel, so you can launch it into your pizza oven. Now, 2 more tricks with the gluten-free dough. I will move this one out of the way. And I do have one that I prepared earlier that I can show you, but I do just want to show you very quickly how to get your gluten-free dough out of your Thermomix bowl. So you can see it's quite wet, it's quite sticky. So my trick, hang on, if I can adjust my camera. My trick is to pop it up on top of the thermo server. This is our white thermo server. And just, hang on, make sure you can see what I'm doing. Twist the base of the bowl, to twist those blades so that it starts to release, the weight of the dough starts to come down. So you'll see I've got some dough, I've got some left. Now, you don't want to waste this. So to get this out, first of all, you can grab your trusty flying, in my case, spatula, and put it in, scrape around and get those big pieces out. Once you've got all the big bits out, the other trick, if you're not aware of it, is to pop your Thermomix bowl back on, go to your main screen, go to your speed, and just turn your speed up to 7 for about a second. And then when it opens, you'll see that it's all gone around the side, so it's going to be really easy to scrape and add to the bowl. So I'm going to be doing that in a moment, but I wanted to just quickly show you a finished product, which I popped into the Ovana a little earlier. And if you haven't seen these, I'm a big fan of the wooden chopping boards that we now have available in the mix shop. So this is the gluten-free base. And the reason my kids like it is because it actually rises when it's cooking. So now this one has cooled down a bit. Big fan of the pizza knife as well. But when you pick it up, you can see this was in the Ovana for 60 seconds in total. You can see that crust isn't just flat and cake-like, which you often get with gluten-free crusts. It's got a bit of an air bubble there. I could have used my dough docker to stop the air bubbles, but to be honest, I like the fact that it actually rises and it isn't just flat and cake-like. So that one just had some tomato sauce and some cheese on it. So there you go. That is a quick whip around of the gluten-free pizza base. We are going to send you out an email after this. It will have all of those hints and tips and the cheat sheet of the different flour blends, which I'm sorry I couldn't show you today. As anyone in my Thermomix branch will tell you, there's always something clunky that goes wrong, but we always have a lot of fun. So I'll put in my quick recruiting plug. If anyone is interested in becoming a consultant, we do have a lot of fun. Please have a chat to your consultant, reach out to a local team leader, and we would love to have you join us. All right, I am going to mute myself, send you back to Linda.
Awesome. Thank you, Teresa. I actually didn't realize that dough came together like that. Oh, look, I'm headless. Here I am. And if you're wondering why I'm sitting outside, is because I've actually got my Ovana heating up. So I wanted to show you my attempt of launching a pizza into the Ovana. Now, Mario's been very kind, as I said, on the community page. And when I first got my Ovana pizza and I was there and I did a bit of a video with one of the paddles, and he's going, and he wrote back, you don't have to turn it so often. But I'm like, I didn't even know what to do. So I was so grateful for a community page to actually go on and learn a little bit about how to not only launch a pizza into an outdoor pizza oven like this, but also how to use all the accessories that we can get on the mix shop. And we do have quite a few. So I'm going to just highlight a few of those. And then I'm going to go back to Mario. As I said, we're going to whip around and see what everybody's finished product looked like. And I'm really quite keen. There's a few tips that Mario can also give us about how we can actually prepare our pizza oven, the pizza stone, etc. And even now we've got a wonderful sizzling pan. So between Mario and I, hopefully we can answer some of those questions about how we can season your oven and some of the accessories. So while Teresa was busy, so was I. And I'm going to just tip this down. I've been busy making a pizza, and one of the things that I heard Mario say quite quickly at the start was be prepared, have everything ready. And just like Teresa, I've been having all my little ingredients in the little bamboo bowls from the mix shop, so I had everything ready to go. My dough doesn't look fantastic and it's not in a perfect shape, sorry Mario, but I've done my best and I've popped my topping on here. And again, I've used the basic sauce. People are probably looking closely at this going, she's got anchovies. Oh my goodness. Yes, I do. I am an anchovy queen. I love it. I could just eat them out of the jar. So you'll notice if I wiggle this, it's going to come loose because I've taken on the big tips of everybody and I've used the polenta. But now I'm going to get one of the girls to spotlight my Ovana camera. So can somebody take this off the screen and go to the Ovana, if you can find it.
Looking.
And I'm just going to
take me 2 seconds.
Yep,
Here
great.
we go.
And I am outside, as I said to you all. So there we go. Fantastic. Okay, so what I'm doing here is this is the Ovana. I've been heating it up. It's connected to a gas bottle. And if you're wondering of my little setup here, and there's been some great talk on that community page about how can we set up our Ovana outside if you haven't got a big pizza area. I'm actually building a little area for pizza and barbecue at the moment. But in the meantime, I'm outside on my deck. And on my deck, I ended up getting one of these things. It just came from Bunnings. It's basically got storage inside so I can have my gas bottle inside. And yeah, it's simple. It's small. It's got wheels. I can move it around on my deck. And at the moment, I ended up coming into this little corner because we looked like we were about to get a big shower. So I thought I'd just pop it into this little corner. So hence the reason I'm over here. Okay, so all of the instructions come with the Ovana. And things like the handle will be separate from the door here. It tells you how to put the handle on and all the rest of it. You've got a temperature gauge on the top. And if I take this off, this is very hot, obviously. So I'm just popping it down onto the floor. And I did say to you, I was preheating my oven, and I'd noticed that the boys had been in this oven making some pizzas earlier, left it nice and dirty for me. So while I've been preheating it, I've noticed that it's burnt off some of the black that was inside there. Maybe Mario can talk about the seasoning and the burning off of that in a little while, but I'm not going to put my brush in there. One of the accessories that does come it is available to you on the mix shop is this brush here, but very clear instructions. We don't go into the oven while it's still hot, but once you've actually burnt it off at a high temperature for a period of time and you've turned it off and it's cooled down, you can go in with this brush and you can actually remove all the dark bits in there. So here we go. I'm going to, this is really embarrassing because I'm going to go live and launch this. And I'm hoping, oh, look at that. It ended up in there. So I'm pleased that it's in there. Hopefully it's in the right section, but well, that's yet to be proven. The next accessory that we're going to use is this thing here. And if you've never seen one of these, this is what you call the paddle. And this enables you to actually go in underneath and turn it around. Now, I'm hoping that, Mario will explain everything that I'm doing wrong later. But, as I said, I'm just a mum in my house giving the old pizza oven a go. But the key thing is making sure, my understanding is you've got to get that base going first. And then once it's got a little bit of a seal to it, that's when we can go in and move it around. So I'm just going to take this down a little bit so you can see what's going on the inside, because I'm sure you might like to see what I'm doing on the inside. There you go. So it's burning on one side. I've already caught a fire because it was too slow. But so So just ignore that bit, all right? And we're just going to move it around. As I said, I'm not perfect. And mine's blown up quite a bit because I was playing around with it. It was sitting out here while Teresa was talking. So I think what's happened is I've got quite a few air pockets there, and the dough has risen. But really what I wanted to show you was just that ability to go in and just move it around, and how quickly this oven actually heats up and how you start to get that browning. Now, what we've seen on that Ovana community group is lots of people using the oven for many different things. They're using it for baking bread. They're using it for doing searing of meat. They're doing shashliks. I saw somebody the other day, doing some quick prawns or something. They had a cray in there or something that they threw underneath and just seared it. So I'm going to go back to Mario now. We're going to talk about a few different things that the pizza oven can actually do before I actually make a big mess of my pizza in front of everybody. I'm going to take it out. There we go. Look at that. Nice and burnt on one side. I've just cut that bit off. Oh, gee. The magic of being live, hey? The magic of being live. All right. So I'm just going to leave that. And we'll come back here and I'll try and give you the good side. All right. Now, Mario, are you still on? Can you jump off mute, and can I have a quick chat with you again about some of the things that we can do if we get a pizza Ovana pizza oven, and how we can actually set that particular oven up? And I know, there's certain things that we need to do to the stone. Oh, hello.
Yeah, I've got a little helper at the moment.
Wow, hi.
What's your name?
Hi. Sophia. Beautiful. I'm Linda. Nice to meet you. So there are a few things that we need to know about the actual oven, isn't it, Mario? About preparing the oven, preparing the stone, seasoning things like our sizzling pan. Can you take us through some of those things that people might have some questions about?
Yes. So basically, majority of all the setup and seasoning and everything is usually all enclosed and included with the oven, with the sizzle pan and everything else. But if for whatever reason the packaging gets thrown away or the booklet gets thrown away, basically for the oven, the first thing is to give everything a clean out, a wipe out, make sure there's no packaging or any styrofoam left inside. Essentially, once everything's put together based on the instructions, turn it on, put the door on, leave it on high for about 30 minutes, and you'll notice that it's you smell like a burning smell. That's all the the finishes and stuff that's on there you want to burn off, so you don't get that in your pizza. Basically once that is finished, all that smell is gone. Even if it's after half an hour, if it's still there, I usually what I did for mine is I turned it down to about halfway, and then after that, when it was all done, then we're ready to cook after that. But it's best to let it cool down completely after you're finished. That way you can wipe it all out with a damp cloth or a damp paper towel, just to get any residue or anything that may have burnt and turned into dust in there, because you don't want that on your pizzas as you cook. You want to be ingesting that. So once that's done, you're ready to go, basically. In terms of cleaning the stone, all I do is just literally brush it out and burn it. That's all I do. I don't never take it out to clean anything. It's just all inside the oven. And you'll notice, as I heard you mentioning, you get all the black stuff in there. That will disappear. That will turn into a white ash, and that will literally go away and wipe away. So there's nothing special you got to do. I didn't even know it wasn't recommended to put the brush inside the oven while it's cooking, because I've always done that.
Something. Hey.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's this is a different one that I've got, but as you might be able to see, it's a little bit charred for that reason. Is that the heat and wood don't necessarily go together very well, but they are hard. It's like a hard wearing wood, so it's not going to catch on fire too easily. But it's best to be safe and listen to the instructions. Yeah, I will.
When I launched the pizza into the oven earlier, and I'm not 100%, as I said, an expert in this at all means, but is it correct that when we bring the pizza into the stone and the stone's hot, that we need to let it sort of seal a little bit before we start that turning process?
Yeah, so that's exactly what you said.
That's all right. It's all right. Remember,
Yeah.
you never work with children and animals. Don't you know that on screen?
Yeah, I know. Yes, so exactly what you said is correct. You're waiting for it to at least start to cook a little bit in the bottom. I look for the side closest to the flame. Once that started to cook and puff up, it's sort of a good indication that the rest of it should be pretty well cooked and created that seal on the dough. So it's not going to be stuck to the stone anymore. And then what I do is I put the turning peel in and then effectively, turn it around and spin and do what needs to be done. If I had one in the oven, I'll be able to show you exactly what I mean.
Yeah. I'm sure they can go onto the community page and see the expert at hand. Yeah. The other thing I did notice that stretching, there's a video on your community group also, which is the stretch, lift, slap as well. So anybody that missed that that technique, he's got it in slow motion on a video as well. So that was very useful. There's a few other things that I just wanted to talk about. The sizzling pan was something else that I haven't had a real go at yet. So it's something that's in our mix shop. This is what it looks like if you haven't seen it, everybody. It gives you the ability to, as I said, to put, maybe a big piece of protein on it or something like that. This too needs to be sealed. Is that right, Mario?
Yes, that's right. I mean, it does come pre-seasoned, it says, but it's always best practice to, just give it an extra coat, extra seasoning to make sure you're not going to have any issues when you cook on it. Because depending on, if it's, from the factory and everything else, you just want to make sure everything is completely coated when using it. So essentially, coating it in oil, baking it in the oven, allowing for it to cool, and once it's completely cool, then it's basically ready to go. I haven't actually received our sizzle pan yet, but I do have another version of it. So seasoning that one, I know how to do it based on what I did with the other one. So I don't know if there's anything specifically in the instructions for that sizzle pan that needs to be done, but I'm assuming that it would be pretty similar with all cast iron products. Coat of oil heated up.
We've got a lovely, for those of you that are interested in getting the Ovana, when you go onto the main Thermomix page at www.thermomix.com.au and you go into the mix shop, there's a whole Ovana section in there. So there's a little bit of a description and a video about the Ovana, the carry bag, all the accessories that it comes with, and with our with the sizzling pan and stuff, some instructions. So as Mario said, there'll be some details that are obviously on his community group, but we also do have them on the main page for you as well. I'd like now to, if I could, Mario, I'm going to keep you on just for 2 more seconds if I can. I'm going to swing back to everybody else, and I'm just going to have a quick look at what those final dishes, the pizza pocket, the black pizza. We've already seen Teresa's wonderful gluten-free pizza. But I want to see those two, and then I want to close with opening it up, if it's all right, and seeing if we've got any key questions that we haven't touched on yet that Mario could help people with when it comes to pizza. Would that be all right, Mario?
Yeah, that's all good.
Okay, great. Okay, so can we go back to Sharon and see Sharon's finished product, and then we'll go to Anita. Sharon, over to you.
Sorry, I was trying to look for the volume. Hi. So this is the big pizza that has turned out. You can see how black it is. And what I'm going to finish it off with, if you've got kids who don't like the veggie, you can have it on the side, but I've also done some with little ones with it. And you can also make little pockets with cheese on the side by rolling the sides up. And I've made Yuzu Mayonnaise by using the cooked mayonnaise and adding about 20% of yuzu juice to that. And to finish the pizza off, I'll just drizzle that on, just like that. And some on, and the salad too. Yuzu mayonnaise goes really well with salad. And there you go.
Wow, that looks amazing, and such a different twist on our traditional Italian pizzas. Bringing in those other flavors, and as much as visually we're looking at that and you think, oh my goodness, it looks like a burnt pizza, it's totally not. But thank you, Sharon, for taking us on a journey of introducing new flavors and another new technique when it comes to pizza and bases. Cheers to you. And let's go over to Anita and let's have a look at Anita's piece of pockets, please.
Well, it's obviously smelled nice because I've had my husband and my daughter already been to help themselves to some. So let's have a look. It's off. Here we go. There's our pizza pockets done. Now, another little tip for you, which I noticed whilst cooking it. Make sure. Are you okay? Is everyone? No?
Yeah, we just got somebody that's not on mute. If one of the girls could take that person on mute, thanks.
Yeah, so all I would just say is when you are creating that pizza pocket, make sure, like I did with a knife, with a fork, sealing it properly. After you've done that with the fork, also put your finger all the way around just so you seal it completely so that the filling doesn't come out. And here we go.
Can I see one cut open? I'm curious.
Yes, of course. We go.
Oh, that looks so good. Fantastic.
Very yummy. Okay, that's me.
All right, thanks, Anita. Okay, so that's where we've taken you on a little bit of a journey now with different methods using, basic pizza. What we're going to do now, as we said, was we'll give you an opportunity. If you've got any questions, Mara's hung around very kindly, and maybe he can answer a couple of those. We'll just keep him for a couple of minutes, not all night. I'm sure he's got something better to do. But if we can get Mario back, has anybody got any questions in the chat? Leah, could you possibly read out the questions if there are any that are directed to Mario?
Yes, there was. Thanks for answering our questions, Mario. I'm just scanning back. There was a question in regards to after you've proofed the dough and you've rolled it into balls, how long do you leave it to rest again before you pop it in the oven?
Yeah, so basically until it's doubled in size and come to room temperature. Another thing that you can look for is if you press on it, it will slightly it will spring back. It won't be sticky and be an indent, and it stays that way. It will be basically spring back essentially. Typical time at around 21 degrees, roughly between 19 to 22 degrees room temperature is about 2 hours from when you boil it up. Usually is when it's ready. But again, it depends on the dough. There's lots of variables, but it's a good timeline. The easiest way is just waiting for the double, essentially.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Julie, I hope that answers your question. There was another question, I believe, about, again, trying to scan back, about the temperature of the oven and just, heating it up and how long before popping them in. What's a good time?
Yeah, so at the moment, I've got my oven heating up at the moment, which has been on probably about 15 minutes now. So at the moment, the temperature gauge says 350 on the top, and using a thermometer is what I use all the time, and I highly recommend them because it gives you an accurate temperature of the stone. And to be honest, once you start cooking, that thermometer at the top isn't necessarily going to be accurate anymore because the stone temperature does drop. So what you're wanting to be doing is monitoring that stone temperature. So right now it says 350 on the analog thermometer, and it's basically 350, 360 on the stone. So in the beginning, it's very consistent, very accurate because the whole thing's heating up at the same time. What I usually aim for is about 410, 415, and let it sit there before I start preparing the first pizza. And then I take the door off and then I start cooking. That gives me a stone temperature of around just over 400 degrees. And that will take about, anywhere from 60 to 90 seconds to cook, depending how much toppings, how thick the dough is. And once I'm done with that pizza and it's out, I then give it a little brush out and then put the door back on. And then that just keeps the temperature, gets the temperature back up, gets the stone temperature back up. And then while I'm cooking the next pizza or preparing the next pizza, that should be ready to go for when I put the next pizza in.
Awesome.
So I always cook on high, I don't cook it on low. It's just always high flame. Everything hot, but again, different doughs, different hydration. There's different temperatures for to compensate for that temperature difference. So, for example, a recipe that's a low hydration, if you cook it at 400, it may burn. It may be still raw. It could be not consistently cooked. So there is a few different variables for it to consider. But pretty much it.
Awesome. And I was just going to say, Wendy, I hope that answered your question, and you said thank you. So there you go. Another question, how long do you have the pizza in the oven for?
Yeah, usually about 60 to 90 seconds is the general sort of time frame. That again depends on how much toppings are on there and how thick the base is, and also depending on where the dough's at as well. If it's a little bit under and it's a little bit cold, it will be harder to stretch out, being a colder temperature. So it will be a little bit thicker, so it'll take a little bit longer. Yeah, that's the average sort of times. So typically it's like 60 to 90 seconds for cooking, and then another 60 to 90 seconds while I'm making the next one. It's ready for the next pizza. That's the typical times.
Perfect, thank you. And I think that's all for the questions for now. Lauren, I hope that answers your question especially. Teresa's just said that her internet's a bit glitchy, and she'd like to thank you too, Mario, for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Mario. And I mean, I think it's been really helpful. I've personally, as a consultant with Thermomix, have had lots of questions around the Ovana. And as we started out by saying, none of us are experts. We're all learning. We've only probably had ours about 30 days. So we're giving it a good hard go. But for all of you that are interested in learning a little bit more about the Ovana and the techniques, please join Mario on that wonderful community group. So it's the Ovana Oven community group on Facebook. We'll pop that information again in the email that we send back out to everybody that's registered. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today on our usual weekend class. And as I say, next week we'll be back to our Saturday 4 p.m, not our Sunday, not to confuse you all. So hopefully we'll see you again with another wonderful Thermomix class, Saturday 4 p.m. And yeah, it's bye for now. Thanks everybody for helping. Thank you girls for your wonderful support. Mario, thank you so much. Leah, thank you for managing the chat. Good night, everybody.
No, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.